All right, this video is going to go over imaginary numbers. Imaginary numbers are represented by the letter I. So this is going to occur when you have a root with a negative number. I has a value of root -1, meaning if you square that, it'd be like root -1 squared. The root and the square cancel, and it just has a value of -1. This is super important to know. I squared has a value of -1. All right, so let me show you how this works. Basically, you're still going to solve these things like normal. So like this number 1, I would subtract 50 first. And if you've seen the other video, you want to get x squared by itself. So here you're still going to divide by 2 before you do anything else. All right, now when you're here, if this had said plus 25, it'd be easy. You could just root it, x equals plus minus 5. But the fact that there's a negative means when you root this, you're still going to use plus minus. But it's going to look like this. X equals plus minus root of -25. Now, the way you finish solving this is you take this negative that's on the inside right there, and it goes away and becomes the letter I in front. So it would look like this now. -25 becomes +25 when you take the I out. And so now you're looking at this and you're like, I know what root 25 is. It's 5. So x equals plus minus. All you have to do is say 5i. So essentially, you can just look at your negative root, call it positive with an I in front. That's the key takeaway. And then proceed as normal. So let's look at another one. You would need to subtract 45 first. And then you're going to root it. So now you're at x equals plus minus root of -45. Again, when you see a negative in that root, it's going to be taken out and become the letter I on the outside. And now in terms of breaking down this root, this is root 9 times root 5, which is 3 root 5. So the way you would write this as your answer is you would say x equals plus minus. The 3 comes first, then the letter I, and then the root 5. Like that. So it's generally number, then the letter I. But also, again, if you see a negative in a root, just write it as a positive root with the letter I in front. Okay, let's keep going. This next one, I would add 10 very first thing. So now I'm at x squared equals -20. Then I would root it. Don't forget plus minus. So now it's x equals plus minus root of -20. Take the I out. Break down your root 20. So that's root 4 times root 5, which is 2 root 5. So my answer would be x equals plus minus 2i root 5. The I is there anytime there's a negative root. Okay, this next one, I would subtract 23 first. I would divide by 3. Once my x squared is by itself, you can root it. So now you're at x equals plus minus root of negative 12. Take the I out and call it positive 12 in the root. Break down root 12, which is root 4 times root 3, which is 2 root 3. So my answer here is x equals plus minus 2I root 3. This next one, subtract 49. Once x squared is by itself, you could root it. So you're at x squared equals plus, you're at x equals plus minus root of negative 49. Take the I out, x equals plus minus I root positive 49. And root 49 is plus minus 7. So my answer is x equals plus minus 7I. This is a good example of seeing like all it is the same thing. So like if it said positive 49, your answer would be plus minus 7. But since it's negative 49, you just put the letter I. Okay, this next one, I would subtract 5. I would then root it. So now I've got x plus 3 equals plus minus root of negative 4. You should be good enough at this by now to look at this and call it 2I immediately. Just saying. So I have another step here that I have to do, which means I need to write this problem twice. X plus 3 equals plus minus, we just said root of negative 4 is 2I. So this plus minus means I'm going to have two answers. So this is where I'm going to write it twice. I'm going to write it once as positive 2I, and then I'm going to write it once as negative 2I. Then I'm going to subtract 3 from both. Now, here's the key. These are not like terms. It's almost like this letter I is a letter X. You know, if this said negative 2x minus 3, you would not combine the 2 and the 3. So it's same principles there. These are not like terms. You cannot combine them. So my answer here is x equals, it doesn't matter the order you put them in. So I could put 2I minus 3, or I could put it as negative 3 plus 2I. That does not matter. And then on this one, it would be x equals, it could be negative 2I minus 3, or you could have written it the other way, negative 3 minus 2I. Okay, and then these last two. This next problem is kind of the same thing. Subtract 10. Root it. So now I'm at x minus 15 equals plus minus root of negative 8. I'll show a little more work on this one. Take the I out. So now it's I root positive 8. Root 8 breaks down to be root 4 times root 2, which is 2 root 2. So I've got x minus 15 equals plus minus, don't forget you took an I out there, so it's 2I root 2. And then since I have another move here and a plus minus, this is where I need to write it twice because I'm going to have two answers. Once as positive 2I root 2 and once as negative 2I root 2. And then just solve both by adding 15. But again, these are not like terms. So my answer here, if you were to add 15, I guess I'll show that, plus 15. Okay, my answer here would be 15 plus 2I root 2. But again, it doesn't matter the order. So you could put 2I root 2 plus 15. That's also acceptable. And then on the second one, my answer would be 15 minus 2i root 2, or you could have put it as negative 2i root 2 plus 15. Okay, and then this last one's real easy. You would just minus 11 right from the start. You would root it, and don't forget plus minus. So now it's x equals plus minus root of negative 11, and then just take the I out. So I root positive 11. And root 11 does not break down any further because it doesn't have any perfect squares that are factors. So, yep, that is how you solve equations when you have a negative in the root. You just take the negative out and call it the letter I out in front of the root, and the root becomes positive. And then you just proceed as normal. If you have something with the letter I, do not combine it with a number. They are not like terms. So hope this video helped.